Alright guys, thought I'd do a nice video on how to basically build your first mining rig using some of the parts that I'm going to list in the description that you can get up and off from Amazon, and how to build your first mining rig, mining ethereum, and how to make some money. And what we'll do at the end is we'll also just switch on to the profitability calculator and show you what this rig will make. So firstly, we're going to be starting off with the Asus B250F gaming motherboard. This board supports, as you can see, this board supports two PCIe 16s as well as 1, 2, 3, 4 PCI 1, 2 slots. So that allows us essentially to put 6 GPUs on here and giving you a full rig. We're going to be making use, just because we're running 3 GPUs, the 850 power Cobra here in this case. You can make use of any PSU that's over and above, I would say 730 on a 3-card GPU, or at least 1200 watt, 1400 watt multi-rail if you're going to run 6 GPUs. Right, so we're going to set that board up. I'm going to show you the BIOS settings all step by step. What I've chosen here in my demonstration, just because I have and I'm waiting for other cards to arrive, I'm using the GeForce GTX 1060 Overclock Edition. So we're going to run 1, 2, 3 cards of this. Last but not least, you're going to need, for this board, a 1151 CPU, standard Celeron processor is fine, and 4 gigs DDR4 RAM. I'm going to put that in the comments below as well, in the description. So all the parts that you see here is going to be in our description as well. Secondly, to raise the cards off the board and onto your shelving, I'm going to give you some examples of different kinds of shelving. You will make use of the powered risers. So this is what they will look like. And in my demonstration, I've got 1, 2, and 3. Okay, let's start. Right guys, once you've got your cards out, you would need to mount it to your shelf or your rack of your choice. Your PCI riser as such. That will go in the bottom. That will then connect to your power supply by the Molex, and then on top you need your 12 volt with your power supply. Once you've connected that, this USB cable from your powered riser, this will then connect straight into your PCI 1 or PCI Express 16 slots. So you will run your 3. If you're running 6 GPUs, you will then install 6. Let's quickly take a look and see what that would look like once mounted on a frame. Okay guys, so here we can see I've got 6 GPUs mounted on a frame. I'm just showing you an example of another rig. So your frame, obviously you can build it to your dimensions for your 3 cards in this example that we will be doing. So I will be mounting mine in a similar frame as such. And here you can see the USB cable that comes down the riser that goes straight into the PCI Express slots. So every frame can look different. You guys can make use of shelving, but effectively that is how the frame would look. Please post your comments below on any frames that you might be using. There's so many ways that you can hang the cards or alternatively shelve them. Okay guys, so here's our test rig. So as you can see, we are finally have our 1, 2, and 3 risers installed. Some risers are different, so don't stress too much on that. CPU with fan installed, with CPU fan plugged in. You will then see I've also installed 1 times DDR4, which is enough, into the memory slot. Underneath, I've plugged in 1 SATA cable, and that allows for my hard drive. Power's plugged in, LAN cable's plugged in, and mouse and keyboard. Very important step now to notice to prevent low hash rating, as per my previous videos, is the primary P16 Express slot. Follow this cable to the graphics card that you've plugged in. The monitor must be plugged in here on this card. not on this onboard display. Once you've done that, let's boot up and go into the BIOS. Okay guys, once we get into the BIOS of the Asus Strix board, there are a few things that we need to do. Firstly, let's click under the Advanced tab, which is below, and let us set the PCI right. So firstly, what we're going to need to do is set the primary display to either, you can leave this at auto first if you want to, but do not plug the monitor into that main screen. So this can be auto. Let's just go back. Right. Onboard device settings, we set the PCI 16.2 configuration to 2x mode. Remove it from auto, set to 2x mode. HD audio controller, click that, disable. Red lighting on the motherboard, you'll see once it boots up for the first time, you can disable, and USB 3.1 controller you can disable. You can then go back and set the PG port configuration. So the PCI 16 link speed set to Gen 1. This should not affect the hash rate. You can change this to Gen 2 if you want to do some testing, but with my testing I've done, it should not affect the hash rate. Once you've done that, you can then go ahead and install Windows. Take a scan. Very critical thing to understand is that if you're going to run 16 GPUs, 6 GPUs, let me correct myself, you would need to enable above 4G decoding. If this is not enabled, you will get the yellow exclamation marks in Windows once you try and install 6 GPUs. This needs to be enabled for 6 GPUs, but because I'm running 3 in our test, this can stay off. If you are running other Asus boards such as the Asus Prime and do not see this option, you will then need to flash your BIOS. This is done within the BIOS, you don't have to download it. The BIOS itself has a built-in utility tool that allows you to update via the internet if you're connected. So I'm just going to quickly show you. At the bottom, you can see the easy mode. Let's just go back to easy mode. Sorry, let's go back to tool. And Asus Easy Flash 3 utility. You will double click in there, update your BIOS, and then that option under Advanced System Agent SA configuration above 4G will be available. If you see this command already, then you don't need to flash the BIOS. So we can go ahead and save that configuration, and let's install a fresh copy of Windows with the 3 cards plugged in onto the board, and ensuring that the monitor is plugged in on the GPU, which is set on PCI 16. Okay guys, so we've got a fresh copy of Windows installed, and now there are 2 things that we'll just need to install. The first one being Afterburner, MSI Afterburner, which is attached in the link below, as well as the Claymore Miner, which is also in the link below of where you can download. Let's go ahead and make sure that in Device Manager that our three cards are showing. And there they are. So once they have no yellow exclamation, they're installed, we can now proceed to the setup and fine tuning to begin mining. The only thing that I do ask is that you turn off Windows updates. This can be done by the start, the run. You can type in below the following command, which is service services, and then that should pop up at the top. You can double click services, and we can go down to Windows Update, and you can disable. Right click, properties, and you can click disabled. Okay, let's move along to the Claymore miner now and show you how to set that up.
Okay guys, so we've downloaded now the Claymore, which is the first piece of software that we will download after we've installed the MSI Afterburner. We will scroll down to Start Only Ethereum, right click and click Edit. So once we've opened that up, I'll put a sort of example in my description below just to show you what that batch file needs to look like. But effectively we are setting all the GPU allocation percentage and the heap size, etc. So it will be as follows, which is the default, to say that we want to use maximum. We will then go and set the miner, which already comes pre sort of set. We will then change the pool to whatever it is. If it's a nano pool, you will then change this and set it accordingly based on nano. If you're using Ethermine, then you will leave it as default. You will then set your wallet address in here. This would be your Ethereum address. This you need to add here, and then the full stop behind the address, and then any name of your choosing, which allows you to recognize the rig on the pool when you go and view it later to see if there's any active workers, or if a worker goes down, you know that this is the name of the rig. So in this case I've used the example of the 1060 GTX. These are all default settings. I've enabled the import 333 so that I can track it through the remote manager that I can run to make sure that all the workers are on, and it will listen on port 333. I've set it to mode 1, which is Ethereum mode only at the time. So we'll click and save that, and then we will open up our Afterburner, which I'm going to show you on the other screen. I'm not going to screen share this, just to give an example of the settings, and then we will run the batch script.
Okay guys, so we've just opened up the Afterburner, and we can now set our core voltage to 0, which is the default. Power limit you can bring down to 90, even less. These settings you can test with, each card will differ from time to time. Power limit I set it to 70. Core clock kept to 0 on Ethereum. It's best to keep it 0. This makes no difference if we bring this up. Memory clock I'm going to start on 800. I'm going to run that for a few hours. Always check for stability first, and then I will move up to 900. Fan speed I set that to 70. I prefer my fans to run all the time. You can always buy fans, but you can't always buy GPUs, is what I'm saying. So once you've got that set, you can click Startup so that it saves these settings. Ensure that that is highlighted, that it's not grey, that it is in fact highlighted red. You need to then also ensure that in the settings that you've selected Start with Windows and click Minimized. And there you'll see our 3 cards in our build that we're going to be doing, and we can start the batch script. So let's go across to Claymore now that we've filled in the wallet. We've named our rig. We can now click on the Start Only Ethereum, and we should be mining. There you'll see it's found our three cards. Obviously all settings will differ guys, so please just play with your settings. I do like to run mine around about 900, that way I get in and around 72 mega hashes. So straight off at 800, we're getting 22,800. We're getting a total of 68 mega hashes for 3 cards. We'll try and bring that up a bit later, but let's leave this to run so we can see stability. And there we are mining. And there we go, guys. We've been running for a few hours. Stability is not an issue. As you can see, we're running an average of 68 mega hashes for the 3 cards. Slightly under by our core settings set as follows: core clock to 0, core voltage to 0, power limit I dragged down to 90, and the memory clock to 800. You're welcome to increase that to 900 to press your hash rate to slightly 23.5. I always like to run for a few hours and then progressively slowly move my way up. So there we can see we're now mining with 3 cards and effectively have about 68.8 mega hashes.
Okay guys, so we've downloaded now the Claymore, which is the first piece of software that we will download after we've installed the MSI Afterburner. We will scroll down to Start Only Ethereum, right click and click Edit. So once we've opened that up, I'll put a sort of example in my description below just to show you what that batch file needs to look like. But effectively we are setting all the GPU allocation percentage and the heap size, etc. So it will be as follows, which is the default, to say that we want to use maximum. We will then go and set the miner, which already comes pre sort of set. We will then change the pool to whatever it is. If it's a nano pool, you will then change this and set it accordingly based on nano. If you're using Ethermine, then you will leave it as default. You will then set your wallet address in here. This would be your Ethereum address. This you need to add here. And then the full stop behind the address, and then any name of your choosing, which allows you to recognize the rig on the pool when you go and view it later to see if there's any active workers, or if a worker goes down, you know that this is the name of the rig. So in this case I've used the example of the 1060 GTX. These are all default settings. I've enabled the import 333 so that I can track it through the remote manager that I can run to make sure that all the workers are on, and it will listen on port 333. I've set it to mode 1, which is Ethereum mode only at the time. So we'll click and save that, and then we will open up our Afterburner, which I'm going to show you on the other screen. I'm not going to screen share this, just to give an example of the settings, and then we will run the batch script.